trim, 7 knots indicator, answer 4.
Okay, 124 maybe? 125. Okay.
This is how it all began for 1,500 American sailors as they embarked upon this historic 3-day visit. It was 40 years ago this month in 1949 when U.S. Navy ships were last here in Shanghai, just before the country fell to communist rule. In recent years, however, developing relations between the two navies became evident when U.S. Navy ships made a port call on Qingdao in 1986, and the Chinese made their first U.S. port visit last month in Hawaii. As U.S. representatives overseas, U.S. Navy ships are expected to look their best in foreign ports. This normally requires many long, hard hours of work on the part of the crew. I spent a few days aboard one of the ships underway to Shanghai and found that the preparation time and effort, among other things, for this historic visit was quite a bit different. Even with the majority of the work done, from day one aboard USS Sterett, it was evident that preparations continued. There was a little touch-up painting to be done, here and there, finishing a job that began weeks ago.
Ship's floors laid the new non-skid. All the bulkheads, the anchor chains, the anchors, overheads, they were all taken down, repainted.
While rollers and brushes covered the deck, social issues were being covered below.
One of the most important aspects in dealing with the media is...
Immediately after getting underway, a port brief was being recorded for the crew, including pointers on how to deal with questions from the media and background information on Shanghai from a representative of the American consulate. Day 2 at sea, there were pictures to be taken.
All hands man the rails.
Man the rails? At sea? You heard right. The crew got a little practice at it while USS Sterett, USS Blue Ridge, and USS Rodney M. Davis posed in formation for official photographs of the ships making this historic port visit. Definitely different from the routine, but this transit is different, more so for some than others.
Different for everybody, especially for us. We don't know what to expect when we go in. It's still supposed to be one of the busiest ports in the world. It's only 600 to 800 yards all the way through. You're going to have ships coming in, you're going to have ships coming out. It's going to be tight, and you're going to have a lot of little fishing boats just going back and forth, cutting in front of you.
Tucker anticipates it will take Sterett about 3 hours to travel 15 miles from the mouth of the river into port at 5 knots, a task sure to keep Sterett's 8 quartermasters on their toes. The evening of Day 2 underway, Data Systems Technician Benjamin Henderson is thinking about being on his toes for a job he's less familiar with than repairing circuit cards. He'll be a tour guide.
So what are those long cylindrical tubes there on the side of the ship?
Those are the harpoon launchers.
What are they for?
First time having to talk to a group of people. The other thing that makes me nervous is they don't speak English, and I'm going to be, well, they say that most of them don't speak English, or to expect that, and they're going to have a Chinese translator.
Whether tasked with being tour guides, the prolonged preparation, or altered routines, nothing seems to have dampened the crew's spirit for the chance to experience the unknown.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about it.
I'm sure it'll be excitement for me, you know, something to look back on, you know, to tell my kids. Or
I'm getting ready to leave, so it's a good way to end it, being on the Sterett.
As you can see, maintaining the image of the U.S. Navy overseas is an important part of the mission of deployed sailors. And as Petty Officer Quinn Litton reports, making a good first impression during this historic visit is equally important to both sides.
Preparations for the U.S. Navy ship visit began months ago for the Chinese, but the finishing touches were just recently added. Chinese sailors began the task of brightening up the mooring areas at Shanghai Naval Yard to give a colorful welcome to their U.S. counterparts.
It is a great event in the history of the Chinese Navy to meet such an important foreign Navy fleet. And the people doing quite a bit for welcoming the ship.
The Chinese are not the only ones gearing up for this event. There's a small community of Americans who live and work in Shanghai who are also looking forward to welcoming their Navy here in the city.
Joint business ventures by Americans and Chinese are becoming quite prevalent in Shanghai. One company in particular from Atlanta, Georgia, is working on a $200 million building project that will open later this year. In honor of the Navy's visit, the company displayed a banner from one of its buildings to say welcome to the fleet.
It's easy in an environment like this to feel isolated and alone from your country, and so this, we swell with pride. It makes me feel great. I'm really happy to hear that you're coming, and look forward to seeing the ships on the horizon.
We have to prepare 2 hours in the sea.
Okay, so we will have to drop that.
While preparations were being made in one part of the city, U.S. and Chinese officials at the American consulate were also finalizing last-minute details for the visit.
我想问一下，这客人就美国客人在上海的侨民。
With all the cards on the table, all that remained was the anticipation of the ship's arrival. The atmosphere filled with excitement as the first U.S. ships in almost 4 decades began their approach to Shanghai's pier. Dependents of some of the crew members also made the journey to China to take part in the revelry. And as bands played and whistles blew, Chinese diplomats stood ready to receive their guests into the city. After a brief reception on the pier and a reviewing of the Chinese Guard, Vice Admiral Henry Mawes, Commander 7th Fleet, held a press conference on the forecastle of his flagship. By early evening, after the pomp and circumstance had died down, the men of the 7th Fleet prepared to get a taste of the varied culture and lifestyle of the people of Shanghai.
Before the ships arrived, part of our crew had a chance to take their cameras out into the streets so that we could give you some idea of life in this 700-year-old city. Reported for us by USS Blue Ridge journalist Eric Croy.
The first thing that any foreigner has to notice about Shanghai is the people. How many there are in the streets. There are people everywhere you look. Shanghai's almost 13 million people occupy 82 square miles. Authorities here say in comparison to approximately 20 yards of personal space we're accustomed to on the streets, there are only about 2 yards of personal space in this city. The second thing that comes to your attention is that almost everyone is riding a bicycle. There are said to be 3 million of them in Shanghai. What's remarkable is that pedestrians, bicycles, and automobile traffic all share the streets with death-defying agility, except when student demonstrations stop the movement of any kind. Students from junior high to college age added to the congestion on the streets during the first 2 days of the ship's visit. Their causes range from better education to a freer society. The lower white banner says, "Patriotism is not a crime. Support Beijing," in reference to student demonstrators in the capital city. Other banners identify schools the groups are from. We found the crowded conditions from tourists, bicycles, and demonstrators had little effect on Shanghai citizens' friendly and courteous manners. Most were happy to smile for our camera while unwinding away from the crowds at the old tea house in Yew Garden. They come here to relax with a cup of tea, much the same as some Americans enjoy happy hour after work. But few, if any, American establishments can match the 250-year history of this Shanghai landmark, where Queen Elizabeth II sipped tea during her first visit to China. People in Shanghai are very curious and didn't hesitate to get close enough to find out what we were doing, but also didn't mind our getting close enough to do the same, as this traditional meal of dim sum, a steamed dumpling with ground meat inside, was being prepared at a local restaurant. That's a brief look at life in Shanghai. Petty Officer Eric Croy reporting.
Liberty in this communist country is certainly unlike any other in the Far East. But as Petty Officer Todd Willebrand reports, concerns over our country's political systems were soon overcome by natural curiosity.
Many surprises were in store for 7th Fleet sailors and Marines during the recent 3-ship visit to Shanghai. A pair of sailors from the guided missile cruiser USS Sterett learned that they held some misconceptions concerning this unusual and historic visit.
Our 2 first-class petty officers found Shanghai much different than any other Westpac port.
I was expecting really stern faces and hostile crowds and nobody coming up to us trying to avoid us, and just the opposite happened. Everybody's smiling, happy, coming up to us on the streets, crowding around us, just to say hello, try out their English, shake our hands, just make us feel at home here.
The sailors had a chance to meet their Chinese counterparts, not only during tours of the Chinese naval base, but out in the city as well.
Even the sailors, the Chinese sailors, they're very similar to American sailors, and the things that they talk about, the things that they want, and the things that they're thinking about when they're not at home.
During the short visit, crew members were not able to enjoy as much of the Chinese culture as they would have liked, but they still managed the inevitable shopping trip.
What we got? It smells good. Very nice. Very nice, yeah.
The main thing for most crew members was seeing as much of Shanghai as possible, and Curtin and Baumgartner were certainly no exceptions. Reporting from Shanghai in the People's Republic of China, I'm Petty Officer Todd Willebrand.
Between Liberty Call and Protocol, there was time for house calls and a chance to get a closer look at the latest shipboard technology on both sides. 200 U.S. sailors, the U.S. ship's commanding officers, and the Commander's 7th Fleet responded to the invitation to tour the Shanghai Naval Base.
Yesterday afternoon, I had a chance to visit some of their ships and see their base at the Shanghai Naval Base. And they made it clear to me that they regard the U.S. Navy as being the finest Navy in the world, that we have global responsibilities, and that they hope to learn from us and to extend the feeling of cooperation and friendship that we have now.
The sailors came equipped to capture memories of their visit on film and also to document what would probably be their only chance to board Chinese ships. While they didn't speak the same language, a gesture was all that was necessary to guide them through the tour. The U.S. extended a similar invitation, and more than 2,500 Chinese sailors and civilian guests took them up on the offer to learn more about the U.S. Navy. With the help of translators, sailors and Marines explained the function of some of the equipment to appreciative visitors.
We think that it is very helpful to us, especially when we come on board your ship.
Among the visitors, an American teaching English at a Shanghai university said 2 of her students were impressed by the accessibility.
They're fascinated. They're amazed at how open everything is. You can ask about a gun. You can pick up a gun. I think they're pretty surprised that, you couldn't just walk on a Chinese ship and ask, oh, is this a torpedo? Is this That's really interesting.
While only interesting for some, U.S. and Chinese military leaders saw the visit as much more.
I really believe that it's going to be another important step in the steadily improving relations between our two countries and the cooperation and friendship we have with the Chinese Navy in particular. And I think we'll see more of this kind of thing in the future.
And now here's Seaman Kathleen Sunk with this week's special Shanghai edition of Newslog.
Along with Liberty Calls, a busy schedule of planned events gave sailors the opportunity to have fun and learn a little about Shanghai's culture at the same time. A tour of the Jade Carving Factory presented a behind-the-scenes look at the intricate work that goes into lovely and delicate pieces of jade and ivory. According to experts, before 1958, jade carving was a solitary art, and craftsmen protected their trade secret. Then came the factory and a school to teach the craft. In contrast, the acrobatic skills sailors were treated to by the Acrobatic Theater of Shanghai are still passed down from generation to generation. This troupe is touted as the best in China and is performed in the U.S. for President Jimmy Carter. Also during the visit, Chinese and American sailors were invited to a picnic on the grounds of the American consulate in Shanghai. USS Blue Ridge and Sterett crew members revealed that China was a little different than they had imagined.
I don't know exactly what I thought it would be at first, but I think that it's the people are much friendlier than I ever expected them to be.
They really want to learn the language, that's for sure, and they want to learn more about our Navy and what we do,
Although the picnic's menu of hot dogs and hamburgers was strictly American, both U.S. and Chinese sailors practiced the international art of barter, exchanging uniform items as mementos of the visit. A little healthy competition never hurt anyone, and to prove it, the two countries battled it out on the basketball court and the soccer field. The basketball court heated up when the Chinese edged by the American team 63-62. The People's Liberation Army Navy team also took on